to the What If It's Not Depression Vodcast. I'm your host, Dr. Achina Stein, and I have today a wonderful woman who we've pinky swore that we're going to go to the Himalayas someday. And I'm wearing her color. It's a sexy hot red in her honor. Her name is Dr. Sharon Stills, and she's her name is Dr. Sharon Stills, and she's a naturopathic medical doctor who helps perimenopausal and menopausal women who pause and evaluate life so they can live the second act of their life story stronger, healthier, and sexier while aging backwards. I'm on board. I'm on board with that. So I can't wait to learn more from her. Using her 20 plus years experience and extensive training and background in European biological medicine, anti-aging therapies, and bioidentical hormone replacement, she has successfully helped thousands of women transition gently through the different stages of their lives with all natural methods. She is passionate about spreading the word about her signature RED Hot Sexy Menopause program, the philosophy she's developed for you to reinvent your health, explore your spirit, and discover your sexy so that you too can create and live the life you desire and deserve. She has founded one of the largest and most successful naturopathic clinics in the country for a decade and is the host of her own podcast, the Science of Self-Healing podcast. She's an expert physician for Women's Health Network, and she educates other physicians as the co-lead North American lecturer for the Paracelsus Academy in Switzerland. And patients work with Dr. Stills in a variety of ways through telemedicine consults and her life-changing retreats for individuals or small groups in healing and rejuvenating locations around the world. Some patients will even fly out to see her or fly her in just to get a chance to work with her one-on-one. Welcome, Dr. Stills. And if you like this episode, we're going to be talking everything about menopause. Please click the like button and subscribe.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for wearing red. I'm wearing red too. You just can't see it the way I have my camera, but I promise I have red on as well. So it's really nice to be here and talk to your listeners and give them the scoop on menopause.
Right. Yes. I know we're both in menopause, and you're a grandmother. I mean, people are usually surprised about how young we look, but we act younger and we look younger, but we are older and have survived menopause, right?
Actually thrived.
Yeah, and thrived, right? So we wanted to reverse those myths, that people think, oh my gosh, I'm going through perimenopause, I'm going through menopause, and they're terrified, right? They're terrified of the process or impending process. And it really is something that I want to change people's mindsets about. And you're the perfect person to talk about it. So let's just get started and let's just start with what is menopause? I think it's so important for people to understand what it is. What is the definition of menopause from a traditional approach, conventional mindset, and how long does it last? Everything. Let's just start there.
Great. I am all about flipping the script on menopause, because to start with, before I define, when you think about menopause, it is true that a lot of women are taught to fear menopause. They're afraid of it. They think it's going to be the end of their life as they know it. And we have to really step back for a second and think about, where have we really gathered our knowledge from about health? And so often this knowledge just kind of seeps into us from societal, from parents, from aunties, from teachers, and we don't really stop to say, well, is that true? How do you know that? And I think of times where I've been standing in line at the bank, this moment that always comes back to me, where I just hear women talking in front of me about what menopause is and what you need to do. Oh, you should definitely drink orange juice. That's really going to help you with your hot flashes. And I just think, wow, this is so sad. It's like a bad game of telephone. And a lot of times this is how we get our information, and people are well-meaning, but it's just a bad game of telephone and the wrong information gets conveyed. And so my whole mission is about, like I said, flipping the script about menopause being the sacred second act of your life. And I say second because I believe there's a third. I don't think it's the last act of your life. I think it's the intermission.
Yes.
And the time to be an amazing intermission and to really embrace it. And so what's the definition of menopause? Well, from a dry medical textbook definition, it's the cessation of your menstrual cycle. And so women have a period every month and they're shedding the uterine lining. And as they grow older and the activity ceases of the ovaries and so forth, it's a natural thing to go through menopause. You don't want to be having a period through your whole life. At some point, you want to be past and say, okay, I'm no longer in the child rearing arena. I don't want that to be an option for me anymore. And so it's about me now. It's about my time in my life. And so your perimenopausal could be as early as 35. And with all the toxicity and all the stress and all the nutrient deficiencies, I see women becoming perimenopausal earlier and earlier. And often they're not even aware of it, because if you just go to your OBGYN or you go to your primary, it's usually not in their DDX, which is a differential diagnosis. So when a patient comes to see you, you're thinking, okay, they're tired. What are all the reasons it could be? And then you're going to start to rule out or rule in these reasons. And so when you go with these issues, which could be sleepless nights, hair falling out, mood changes, bloating, weight gain, acne. I mean, it could be, there's so many issues, urinary tract infections.
Yeah. I have to interrupt you there, because one of those things is major depression.
Absolutely.
They're given a prescription for an antidepressant.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
The mood changes and you're told this is normal, or here's an antidepressant, which, why does an antidepressant play in when you have an imbalance in your hormones? It doesn't, but women are just given that to shut them up, to suppress them, to not deal with them. And so if you go to a doctor, they're not, if you complain about something, you're just given a medication. And so a lot of times it doesn't even come into the patient's consciousness or questioning. And if they ask, is this my hormones? They're told, of course not. You're 35, you're 10, 15, 20 years away from menopause. And so we've kind of defined hormones in our medical lives as you get your period, you get pregnant, if that's the route you choose to do, becoming a mother. And then you go through menopause, and menopause is just kind of like hot flashes. We don't think about it. That's like the bucket thing. Oh, you're going to have hot flashes when you go through menopause. And then you'll go through that and you'll just carry on. And so going back to the definition, you're perimenopausal when these changes are starting to happen. Then so menopause is a year without your period. And so I know when I went through it, I went 6 months and then I got a period. And then I was like, oh, got to start the clock again. And then I had to wait another year to officially be postmenopausal. So it's kind of like menopause is this transition. And once you get to that year mark, well, now you're not in menopause anymore. Now you're postmenopausal. Right. And I was fortunate enough, the universe was conspiring. You mentioned in the beginning, we pinky sweared we were going to go to camp together. And for my menopausal journey, I stood on the top of Kilimanjaro exactly a year to the day as I was saying, I'm now rocking menopause. And I did that for me. And I did that not to say everyone needs to do that, but for women to see, wow, menopause can be just the beginning. It doesn't have to be the end. Right. And so I write menopause with parentheses around the pause, because they're talking about menopause being the cessation, the pause of your menstrual cycle. Right. But to me, it's this beautiful opening and opportunity to pause and really look at your life and be inquiring as to where have you been? Where are you currently, and where do you want to go? And that's not just on your physical health, that's on your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health. It's this opportunity to really inquire, because if we don't take these pauses, then we often don't think about these things. We get caught in life and working, and running to the gym and running to the supermarket and taking care of the family. And we just get on this habitual hamster wheel. And so we really have to carve out these moments where we say to ourselves, am I living the life that I desire, that I dreamed of? Am I engaging in the things that bring me joy? So do you love to dance? Is dancing something that lights you up? And then when you take stock of your life, you go, wow, I haven't been dancing for 8 years. And
Right.
so it's this opportunity not only to pause and get our health balanced, but to pause and get our entire life balanced. So that is how I define menopause, as this wonderful moment. And if you are, I'll tell my personal story real quick, because I was someone who suffered with hormonal imbalance for a very long time. I kind of got my period and then it was just struggles and suffering. And even through my teen years, I was pregnant at 20, I was married young and pregnant again. And even through that, just suffering and suffering and suffering. I look at my daughter-in-law now and she's just this vibrant pregnant woman. And I'm so inspired because when I was pregnant back then, and this was before I became a physician or really understood how the body worked, I was just miserable. I was just on the couch watching Golden Girls while waiting to deliver this baby. And so I struggled and I had the worst PMS. I literally would have PMS for 2.5 weeks. Then I would get my period. Then I would have like 5 days of peace and feeling balanced and feeling good. And then it would just all start over again. And I would get so bloated. People would ask me, I write about this on my website, but people would ask me like, oh, when's the baby due? And I'm like, there is no baby. Like I already have my babies and, embarrassing for them, horrifying for me, but I was just such a disaster. And it wasn't until I changed my diet, I embraced energetic healing, I became a physician, really learned about the liver and the lymph and hormones. And so when I became a physician, this is over 20 years ago, it was right when Suzanne Summers' book came out. And so Bioidentical Hormone Replacement was all of a sudden, this was like a resurgence, because everyone thought after the Women's Health Initiative, which was very flawed, that, they couldn't use their hormones anymore. And all these women were suffering. And then her book came out and a patient brought it to me. And I was focusing on pediatrics. I wasn't even focusing on women's health, but I read the book and thought, wow, this is an opportunity to really help women. So I was in my early 30s helping all these women rock their menopause. And then I thought, I'm a big believer in physician heal thyself and practice what I preach. And all these women are having these amazing menopausal transitions and their hormones are balanced. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bloated. I'm so cranky. I just want to die feeling. Right. So I started to work on my own hormones. And because I started in my early 30s, I went through menopause on the earlier side. I was 48. And there's an average. So some women go a little earlier, some women go a little later.
I was 47.
And so, but I went through menopause and I never even had a hot flash. I literally feel better each and every day as I age than when I was younger and wasn't in balance. And so my menopausal transition was lovely. And I credit that to the preparation that I did when I was perimenopausal. And so it's different for everyone. I have had patients who kind of just go through it and it's not a huge deal. And then I have women who 10 years later are still suffering with hot flashes. And the way I look at the symptoms is it's the body's, I call them sacred messengers. Symptoms are the body's sacred messages. And so if you're having hot flashes and you can't sleep and you're waking up drenched, that is your body really banging you over the head, saying something's out of balance. And so menopause is not just about getting rid of your hot flashes. It's about balancing the body. If the adrenal glands are supposed to take over for some hormone production, and if your adrenal glands are tired, mad at you, stressed, like so many people's are because of the society and the lifestyles we live, that doesn't happen. If your lymphatic system isn't flowing, things are congested, you're going to be toxic. If your liver is burdened, if your gut microbiome and the estrobolome is imbalanced, you're going to have problems there. If you're not sleeping, if you have too much weight on you, the list goes on and on and on. If you're living in toxic conditions or just the regular toxins we're exposed to. And so it's common that you will have symptoms, and it's this opportunity to really get things back in balance. And it is normal. I had a woman, I mentioned her a lot because, again, it just stuck with me. But I run these Women of Wisdom retreats for peri and menopausal women with a partner of mine who's a yoga teacher. And we do salon style circles and we talk about menopause, and I do teachings, and they're really lovely. And one woman said at one talking circle that she really believed and was taught that when you go through menopause, you die.
Wow.
And that's a heavy thing to be living with.
Wow.
And, sometimes people say to me like, oh, do you want to give a talk called Reversing Menopause? And I'm like, no, because this is not something we reverse. This is something we embrace. This is something we master. This is inevitable, just like dying, just like they say, paying your taxes. If you are a female, you are going to go through menopause, and that is okay.
Life. It is a part of life, and it doesn't have to be a horrible part of your life.
No,
at all.
Not at all. So it's just about getting the right information, getting hooked up with a team who understand and will help you through it properly, not just suppress it or tell you it's part of it, it'll go away, deal with it. You're supposed to get fat, you're supposed to get achy, you're supposed to get tired, you're supposed to not sleep properly.
Right.
It just, that's.
Yeah, so that's a great point. We're told all of these negative things. What is normal about menopause? Give the audience an idea of what to expect in a normal, healthy process of menopause.
So what's normal is that emotionally, you are going to come into your own. You are going to learn to love yourself if you haven't already loved that. You're going to be your own best friend. You're going to feel empowered about making your decisions. And hopefully you're going to be in this time where if you had kids, they're grown, that you have more ability to focus on you. And so self-care is not selfish. Self-care is a necessity. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. And learning to put your self-care so that you can pour from a full watering can rather than an empty one is a really important part of menopause. From a physical perspective, your hormones are going to drop. That is normal. If I run hormone levels on someone, they're through menopause and their hormone levels haven't dropped significantly, it's kind of like, whoa, that's a little weird. It's normal. These things are supposed to slow down. Now, I'm a big believer in bioidentical hormone replacement in small, smart, wise proportions. And so because we are living so long, our lifespan has expanded. And so it's not, as I said before, it's not just about hot flashes. So for instance, estrogen is really protective in the brain. It protects against Alzheimer's disease. It helps protect against osteoporosis. It helps with your skin. It helps with your moods. It helps with your cardiovascular system. Testosterone helps with your muscle mass, helps with your sex drive and your orgasms, as does estrogen. It helps with progesterone, is building bones and helpful for the brain. I mean, so there's all these important things that these hormones do that if you don't replace them, you're going to start to struggle and you're leaving yourself open for serious chronic illness. And so to me, it's really important that you work with someone who's knowledgeable and understands how to prescribe them, how to track them, and that you are replacing them. And that is not, I'm a real stickler and I really crack the whip with my patients because hormones will make you feel amazing. I have gotten flowers from husbands of patients. Thank you for giving my wife back. I have had patients want to lean down and kiss my feet. And I'm like, that is not necessary, but you feel fantastic. But in my practice, you're not allowed to just come in and refill your hormones. You have to be engaged. You have to be eating the right diet for yourself. You have to be moving your body appropriately. You have to be moving your lymphatic system. You have to be on liver support. You have to be doing the other things, looking at your toxic levels, looking at your gut, looking at your adrenal glands, because healing is multifactorial. And so you're not allowed to just take the quick, oh, I'm going to take some hormones, because if you take hormones and you're not moving all these things, you can get into trouble. You can become imbalanced easily. You can not be detoxifying them properly and excreting them properly. You could be overdosed. And so they're a beautiful part of everything else that I do for patients.
I'm really, really glad that you say that. I actually don't prescribe bioidentical hormones unless they do this other work first, even. They really need to, because if you're under a lot of stress, those hormones just convert to cortisol. And that's why they feel great, because now they're just having a different way of increasing their cortisol levels when they're actually, burned out, physiologically. And so it's a quick fix for some people, but you can't stay there. And maybe you can start there, but you do have to be on board with a whole program and not just hormones. And the other caveat that I want to mention is that we're talking about bioidentical hormones, which is very different from synthetic hormones. The research shows that synthetic hormones is what leads to cancer and other issues. And bioidentical hormones, like you said, in very small doses and monitored on a regular basis, is really, really important. So it's the whole package.
Absolutely. I always say when I'm lecturing about it, it's comparing apples and oranges. And it can be, I have long-term patients, 15, 20 years on hormones, and will read something and call Dr. Stills, it freaks them out, because it's easy to get freaked out. I understand that, I read this, and are you sure it's okay, the progesterone take? I have to remind them that is not the same bioidentical progesterone or estrogen you're taking. And one of my other specialties is oncology. And so I've worked with a lot of women who are dealing with breast cancer. And it's this misconception out there. It's this myth that I talk about and write about in my ebook, that hormones cause cancer, and actually imbalanced hormones cause cancer, and estrogen does not cause cancer. Otherwise, when girls are going through puberty and estrogen is surging, we'd see this rash of pubescent breast cancer, and we don't see that. It is estrogen that is unbalanced, that is the wrong kind of estrogen. So I actually use bioidentical estrogens to treat breast cancer, whether it's when they've first been diagnosed, as they're going through the process, or post-diagnosis. And so there is a huge misconception out there. And so again, I'm not saying, oh, run out and start taking hormones if you have breast cancer. Find someone who understands this and can act as a guide and help you through that. But that is a huge misconception. We're so afraid of our own hormones that our body makes. Our body wouldn't make anything that's going to cause cancer. It's the other extenuating factors.
Right. And, for the nerdy people out there listening to this, I think it's important when you see a title of a journal article and it has the word progesterone in the title, please go to the methods and look at exactly what they gave the people in the sample. And you'll find that if they have a negative outcome, it's really because of what they used. And more often than not, it's because they've used a synthetic version like progestin in the study. And then they're just, speculating that it's all progesterones or all types of progesterones and that are being included. And that's not the case. So many studies are flawed for that reason.
Really, and if you look at side effects of progestins, they're like all the things you're trying to treat. And I also work on the other end of the spectrum. I work with a lot of patients who have had a hard time getting pregnant, to help them get pregnant, and using progesterone, not progestin, which can cause miscarriages and things. So it's totally an apples and oranges situation. And even just in studies, and you're so correct that you can't compare the synthetics to the bioidenticals, but you also have to be taking into account the things we were just talking about everything else. Like, you can have this study, and even if you gave bioidentical hormones, but you didn't look at all the other factors, you might not get the kind of results you get as if you're working with me or you, where we're really addressing all these other factors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, how long does, I know we're pressed for time, so I want to get to some more questions before we end. And so how long does menopause last? We've talked about people having night sweats, even 10 years into, to when they've officially known that they're in menopause. Is that really menopause, or is there something else going on?
Well, once you've hit that year, then you're postmenopause, and that lasts forever until you die. And
Right.
so if you are struggling 10 years out, it just means you haven't been attended to, and your hormones have not been replenished, and they're just crashed, and you are suffering unnecessarily. And that there are probably a lot of other things going on in your physiology that need to be addressed, because it is really different for all women. Some women have hot flashes and they go away on their own. And you have to think about, like, some women, if you're a little heavier and have a little more body fat on you, you're aromatizing and you're producing a little estrogen that way. If your adrenals are working. So it's really different for everyone, but it lasts forever. And even if you're not having symptoms, what's going on, so much of health is the things we can't see, whether it be invisible EMFs that are affecting us, or whether it be bone disintegration or brain shrinkage. These are, we could see our skin. So like if we have a skin issue or a hair issue, we're very on top of it because we can see it, but we often aren't thinking about, well, what's going on inside? And so those are the things we really need to be thinking about. We really need to be in this mode of, I want to stay healthy and I want to do everything I can. And so it's shifting that mindset of, I don't feel good. Let me take a Tylenol and see if I get rid of it. Okay, I got rid of it. I can't deal with it. I don't have to deal with it. I can go about my business. Or I keep taking the Tylenol and it's not working. I better call Dr. Stills up and see what's going on, rather than, I feel amazing, so I'm going to check in with the doctor and make sure I'm doing all the right things and I can feel amazing. And what can I do to prevent? Because I know as I age, these things are going to be happening. And so we really have to change the way. Menopause is such a beautiful time and opening for us to change the way we look at our health and become more proactive, more preventative, more involved, and to do these things not from fear.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a trick question, because this is the question that I get from my patients, and it's understanding that menopause is a time of your life, and it could be a great time of your life, or it could be a miserable time of your life, and it's related to not just a hormonal imbalance, but other things that are going on. So hormonal imbalance is just a piece of it. It's not that, oh, this is a disease process where I am in a period of menopause and it kind of came back, like it came back.
Menopause.
It's not
menopause
a disease.
Not a disease. No,
Yeah,
that should be a banner, not a disease.
Not a disease, exactly. And it's not something that like comes back. It's just the way you put it. It is a hormonal imbalance, and there's multiple reasons why someone could have a hormonal imbalance. And that it needs to, and you have to look at what you're eating and what's causing inflammation in your body that's disrupting or causing that hormonal imbalance. Whether or not your body's able to detoxify, and what are you putting in that looks like estrogen, that's an estrogen disruptor into your body that's causing that imbalance. And stress is a big reason why people have imbalance.
Stress is 99.99999% of all disease imbalances, in my opinion. And it is, if you have done other things to support your body, you might not feel the hormones dropping as much symptomatically. But if you haven't been, and your gut's a mess and all these other things, and also just your life, if you are not living, it's this opportunity to really, we get this one quick blip of a life that's super precious, and what are you doing with it? And I have had personal experience and lots of patient experiences where the prescription wasn't for astragalus or progesterone or lactobacillus. The prescription was, you got to change that job. You got to write that book. You got to leave that marriage. You got to heal this relationship. You've got to that's a lot of times what really knocks us down and slows us down, and we get sick. It's like the first thing I do when I catch a flu type illness, when that happens in my body, when my taurine is out of balance and I get sick, is I don't reach for all the pills, and the pills are vitamins, but I don't reach for them. I reach inside and go, okay, what's up, Sharon? Like, why is your body putting you in bed? Why is your body stopping you from participating in your life? Where are you out of balance? What are you not doing, or what are you doing too much of? And I go inward.
Right.
And then then I'll take a vitamin C drip or whatever. But I always look at illness, whether it be hot flashes or sleep disturbances. I know you wanted to talk about sleep disturbances. I am like the sleep queen. So I really believe, and I think we don't give enough credence to the basics: getting hydrated, moving your body, breathing, eating correctly, and sleeping. I am a sleep, sleep is like my thing. I need my sleep, and I put it as a priority. And so often, and I was guilty of this in my early 20s, I used to think I was super cool because I could get by on 4 hours of sleep a night. But you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that caught up with my adrenals down the road. And so I think a lot of times, we were talking about before we came on air, sleep cycles.
Right.
And do we, it's like the early bird dinner for as you get older, you go have dinner between 4 to 6, not at 9. But I think a lot of that is just, we need to be in tune with our circadian rhythms. And there's nothing wrong with going to bed early. Again, it's like a societal thing where we have been pushed. Oh, we'll make a dinner reservation for 8 o'clock and we'll go to bed at 1. And our body does better when it's in tune with the sun setting and the sun rising and following that. And so going to sleep earlier and getting up earlier as you age, because that is definitely, I was just talking about this the other day with a friend, like, gone are the days where I stay out till 2 a.m. and can sleep till noon. If I stay out till 2 a.m, my body's still going to be like, hello, it's 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And so it's just your body's way of telling you, this is what you need, and this is going to help you heal, and this is going to support your melatonin and your growth hormone and your leptin and all of these things that are happening while we're sleeping. So engaging sleep at an earlier time and being okay with that is a good thing. And eating earlier, your biggest meal should really be at lunchtime. That's when your Agni, your digestive fire from an Ayurvedic perspective, is higher. And eating a lighter dinner and then stopping eating for 3 hours before you go to bed, and getting your blue blockers on, or just reading a book or taking a bath. But again, this goes back to self-care and putting yourself first and making sleep a priority, because that is how we heal. You can't have balanced hormones. You can't have a good menopausal, postmenopausal experience if you are not in tune with sleeping. And
to listen to your body. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm, you won't be talking to me very late at night. I can tell you that much. I'll be in dreamland already.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting how people's rhythms do change for a variety of reasons. I used to be a night owl even 2 years ago, and proud of it. And now it's completely reversed. I go to bed at 10 o'clock. I start turning into a pumpkin at 9, and I'm up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was just my body changing. It wasn't something that I forced it to do. I just listened to it.
Which is exactly what your adrenals and your hormones want. Those are the perfect sleeping hours. So we should start a movement rather than the gold stars for the night owls. We'll have to start a sleeping. You get your sleeping stars for being an early sleeper and listening to your body and being in tune.
Right. Yeah, so I know I wanted to talk about some other things as well, but I know my time is up with you. We had a hard stop at this point, and so I really appreciate everything that you've discussed with us, Sharon. And I really hope that people really take a different perspective on a time of your life that is that your second story. I want to hear what your third story of your life is, but we'll talk about that offline. Maybe we'll have another episode about that. Okay. But yeah, I really appreciate everything that you do. And anyone who wants to get in touch with you, I will give them your information in the show notes. And if you are interested in my boot camp, she's got programs, I have programs. Those people who are out there that are being given prescriptions for these kinds of symptoms for an SSRI, please talk to me. Okay. Please talk to me, because there is another way, and, listen to your body even about that as well. And do your research and really find what the alternatives are, because antidepressants do not treat hormones. Okay. They treat symptoms down, one or two symptoms downstream, but they're not all the symptoms that come together as a cluster that's attached to those mood swings and anxiety are probably more hormonally related if you're experiencing what we just talked about. Okay.
Just makes me shake my head how you could think an antidepressant, how these doctors do that. It's just really sad, and sad for the women who are not being listened to and heard and guided through this time. So thank you for the work you do.
Yeah, but those doctors are well-meaning. It's just because they don't know the tools. They don't have the tools. They haven't gotten the extra training, that you and I have. And I think, but it's important that's why our job comes in, to educate people about this and to say, okay, well, those are your tools. I'm going to see if there's other tools out there. All right.
Hopefully some of those doctors are listening and
exactly.
want to go get the tools.
Great. Oh, I'm so glad that we had this conversation, because I have this conversation so often with my patients. Thank you again. Thank you.